Okay, so Donald Trump has finally come out to say that if Nigeria doesn't fix its issue with the killing of Christians and the apparent genocide going on of Christians within the country, that he's ready to come in, guns blazes, to kill the people who are doing this, to fight if Nigeria's government won't do it itself. If you're a Nigerian, if you're Tinubu, or if you're any other Nigerian, whether you like Tinubu or not, you need to raise your eyebrows and pay very close attention to what Trump has just done. Trump has just labeled Nigeria as being set apart from other African countries as a country in which Christians aren't safe, and therefore he has the right to just send in his military to deal with it. Sending his military to attack a sovereign nation without any due process through the UN or the international courts. And so what this means now for Nigerians is that it's very clear what the U.S.'s stance is towards you. They don't respect you at all. The U.S. does not respect Nigeria. And the reason I say that is because Trump would never make such a statement against Israel over what they're doing to the Palestinians. He wouldn't even make it on Russia based on what they're doing in Ukraine. What he's saying is that Nigeria is a small country and we can do whatever we want. And then the next question we have to ask ourselves is he really concerned about Christians in Nigeria, or is he just concerned in threatening Nigeria or even possibly taking aggression against Nigeria? So, and if he's not really interested in the plight of Christians in Nigeria, which I don't think he is, then we have to ask ourselves the bigger question: why is Trump angry with Nigeria, or why does Trump pointing a finger at Nigeria now? We've seen him do this to Venezuela, where he said that he's going to send in the CIA to topple the Venezuelan government because of their involvement in drug trafficking. He has sent drones and financial help to people, to the Haitian government, which is mostly run by people who stepped up after the U.S. was involved in the killing of their president. And now they have mostly leaders who are working for the U.S. in transition for elections. He sent drones in there to fight gang members. And now he's turning his eye to Nigeria and saying Nigeria has a problem of the cleansing of Christians and the killing of Christians. So you see this as a pattern in which Trump and the U.S. in general does, is that whenever they're ready for conflict or to put sanctions on a country, they point out some sort of human violations that are going on there, except for Israel. So once again, I have to ask Nigerians, Trump has pinpointed Nigeria. Not only Trump, Ted Cruz, the Christian right politician in the U.S., has said that sanctions need to be put on Nigeria. Secretary of State Rubio, I think he doesn't have a favorable view of Nigeria. And for whatever reason, the U.S. wants to now make Nigeria part of its focus on its war on certain countries for certain reasons. Its war on drugs and on terrorism. This is what the U.S. is now using to target countries, to say that they're in violation of human rights and support of terrorists, specifically Boko Haram, ISWAP, and other groups, ISLEP, or whatever the West African groups of terrorists, which are supposed to be jihadists and anti-Christian, pro-Islamic jihadists. So what he's doing is he's saying that Nigeria is part of that. And that should be trouble for Nigeria, because it means only two things. It means that either he's going to do strikes within Nigeria to get rid of these groups, which is going to be a violation. To me, that's an act on war of Nigeria, because who's going to invite these people to come in? Tinubu's not going to invite them. So for the U.S. to bring in a strike in Nigeria is a violation of Nigeria's sovereignty. And I don't even think Nigeria is a sovereign nation anyway, but if that happens, every Nigerian should wipe their eyes of the delusion that Nigeria is a sovereign country. No, it's just America and Great Britain's bitch. Okay. Second of all, if they don't do that, they'll put sanctions. And this is where we need to ask ourselves, that's what's more likely to happen. I don't think they're going to send troops there. Trump wants to put sanctions on Nigeria, as far as I'm concerned, to force Nigeria to come around and move away from its affiliation with BRICS. I think that's what all of this is really about. And also, just in general, they want to have a stronger control over Nigerian oil and gas. And by labeling Nigeria a country that is killing Christians, and violating human rights, it gives Trump leverage to make threats, and then eventually maybe Nigeria's leaders, to avoid sanctions or avoid the embarrassment of airstrikes, change their economic policies to tail in towards the U.S. Keep an eye on the U.S. Someone said this. They said that to be an enemy of the U.S. is dangerous, but they said more importantly, to be a friend of the U.S. is suicide. It's fatal. So whether through military or through democratic means, Nigeria needs to actually now become a pan-Africanist nation. And what it means to be pan-Africanist, as far as I'm concerned, is that you have absolute control over your resources, and you have absolute rights to pursue national growth based on trade or inner development, but based on your interests, not on the interest of the IMF or World Bank or the US. Presently, Nigeria is not a sovereign Pan-Africanist nation because it's allowing its economic um, destiny and its policies to be driven by the US and Great Britain, which are the same countries that colonized Africa, that colonized Nigeria, and that caused the problems that we have. So you can't be Pan-Africanist. Second of all, to be Pan-Africanist in for Nigeria, to be Pan-Africanist, the second thing is that we now need to start taking seriously entering into alliances that help us. With the Sahel countries that broke off from Britain and France, with South Africa, which is not aligned, but is closely aligned with BRICS. I know it sounds like a contradictory, but they're not they're economically aligned with BRICS, but it's for survival. They're not ideologically aligned to Russia or China or the US. So Nigeria needs to enter relationships in which it is absolutely sovereign and in which it can build on that. So for me, what that means is stay with BRICS, work closely with China, work closely with Venezuela, with India, with Brazil, those countries to foster respectful trade rather than what the U.S. does by giving you loans and then making you pay them with draconian fees. We need to move away from that. And we also, out of wiseness, if I weren't the Nigerian leader, what we need to do is when we enter BRICS, we need to enter deeper relations with China and Russia and these countries to protect us from what the U.S. wants to do to us. Because what they want to do is turn us into their colonies. If Nigeria passes laws based on America's threats to attack it because it supposedly is killing Christians, that means that Nigeria is no longer a sovereign state. It's a protectorate of the U.S. So the only way to not be a protectorate of the U.S. is to go deeper and deeper, even militarily, with other African nations, South Africa, and with China and Russia. Because if we don't, America and Britain are going to eat us up. All we need to do is look at what happened in Libya. Look at what happened in Iraq. I think look what happened in Iraq. Look what happened in countries that didn't have protection, and groups like from Russia and China, or didn't have strong union with other countries to protect them. Their leaders were killed and they were destabilized. So for stabilization now, Nigeria needs to enter military and economic strategic alliance with other countries which go against the U.S. And the reason I'm saying this is because you've heard on TV, Trump has said that he wants to send soldiers into your country because you can't handle your issue of Christians. And for any Nigerian Christian who says, hallelujah, let Trump come into my country and help me fight terrorism, you're a traitor to Nigeria, because anyone who invites the U.S. military to come and send troops without due process, without taking it to the courts of nations and things like that, it doesn't believe that Nigeria has the right to determine and solve its own problems and to use due process within its borders. Now let's go back to this is what the main thing I want to talk about now, is that there probably is a cleansing of Christians in the Middle Belt. Fulanis and also other jihadist groups there are killing Christians at an alarming number, and it appears to be ethnic cleansing as far as I'm concerned, and it's based on land. And for Tinubu to deny it is for him to just deny what's obvious. Now, the question is, it's not up to the U.S. to solve this problem. It's up to Nigeria to solve this problem. It's a big disgrace within Nigeria that not only Christians in the Middle Belt, but Northerners and Muslims closer to the border with Nigeria aren't safe from bandits. It shows that there's corruption in Nigeria. It shows that either the military is weak or the military is helping this process. So this is a big issue that every Nigerian needs to be aware of. And by any means necessary, it needs to be dealt with because it's a security problem from the whole country. This problem with violence in the north with rebels, and then the cleansing of Christians in the Middle Belt shows that the country is unstable, and it's not going to help any of us. So this needs to be addressed. And at this point, I don't think we have a functional government, because if we did, then these types of violations that you're seeing taking place in the Middle Belt would never be allowed to be happening. It couldn't happen in South Africa, couldn't happen in Egypt, couldn't happen in Tunisia, it couldn't happen in Morocco. Why is it happening in Nigeria? Why are we so cancerous? The largest black nation in the world, the largest nation in Africa, the most powerful black nation in the world. Why do we have these types of problems? No electricity, horrific accidents on the road with oil tankers and things, rebels able to come within Nigerian territory and fight the military and control villages and things. This is a disgrace. So when you hear Trump saying that he needs to send troops into your country, realize that your country is, as he said, this disgrace of a country, Nigeria, that your country is a disgrace. And if you don't want to be called a disgrace, you have to start thinking of ways in which Nigeria can become sovereign. And what it means to be sovereign is to control your resources, control your destiny, determine who you enter into trades, and overall, all of those things should be beneficial for you. If Nigeria is going to be one country, then we need to start using our resources to benefit us. And part of that means providing safety for every Nigerian citizen, whether they're Christian, whether they're Muslim, or whether they're like me, atheist. Thank you for watching our show. Continue to support us. Like, share, and subscribe. We are Global Politics Africa.